am a dietitian. I'm a dietitian, and in practice, I was graduated from King Saud University for clinical nutrition, and then I had a master's degree in sport nutrition. My specialty is pediatric and neonatal nutrition. I've been practicing this for the last 18 years. I was the head of nutrition department in King Faisal Hospital for 10 years. Last year, I was promoted to be the executive director of the chief medical operator in King Faisal Hospital. So currently, I am not in nutrition department, but I still have my clinic. I want everyone to understand the difference between dietitians and nutritionists and what are the things that we do currently. The dietitian is the person who works with, it's a healthcare provider, and usually we work with sick individuals and nutrition and diseases. While nutritionists is usually they promote healthy nutrition, they work with healthy individuals, they do awareness, education, and stuff like that. While, as I told you, the dietitians, they should work in clinics or hospitals. In the last few years, there have been a big achievement, or let's say a big change in understanding nutrition. More people believe in it. A lot of people talk about it. Even people that have nothing to do with it, they will say something about food and nutrition and its effect on our body. And this is becoming a little bit dangerous in the last few years. However, the belief in nutrition and its part in treatment of most of the diseases had been improved a lot. Like when I started practicing 2003, we had a role, we do write notes, but the team were not consulting us in everything, and we were not a part in the medical rounds. Currently, we're part of medical rounds, usually anything related to the patient's feeding, diet regime, or anything will be handled by us. A lot of teams insist of having a dietitian as part of their team. In King Faisal, we work as a specialty. So each one of us would receive the training in the specialty they are going to be working with. And they will receive courses, education, training, attend rounds, as I told you, with physician to understand the diseases in order to know the best nutrition intervention that can be provided. We have a lot of specialty in our hospital, starting from oncology, organ transplant, post liver transplant, post heart transplant. Of course, we have cardiac, we have renal, we have pediatric, endo, and we have gastro, dietitians, pediatric and adult. We work as teams. Usually the pediatric nutrition is a little bit different. So we focus, or we have two separate teams in order to work with and to be more specific or more specialized. And why did we start this course, or to provide this course for the medical student? 2010, Dr. The university, Al Faisal University, approached us saying that a lot of physicians had limited nutrition information. And while currently patients ask a lot of questions, what to use in this case, what should we avoid? And since most of the curriculums in most of the Arabic universities, they do not provide specialized nutrition courses. And they thought that it's a good idea to have this in Al Faisal to be special, and also to have a more, or understanding more the patients more, and the intervention or the treatment of the patient. So we looked, and we only found that I think Cleveland Clinic, they have in their university, in the medical school, they have nutrition in it. And I think Harvard, yeah, it was limited. It's not only us that we don't have it. And that was, of course, 12 years ago. I don't know currently what's the case. I don't know if others are having more specific or more specialized. Usually you will receive nutrition if you are, or if you decided to be specialized in gastro. But if you're just a medical student, that will not be part of your curriculum. Anyway, we found a big difference, especially when the students are becoming residents, because most of the exams would have nutrition questions and then related to the cases. So I hope you will enjoy the course. It will be presented or provided by me and Ms. Razan Batma. Ms. Razan is also a dietitian in King Faisal Hospital, and she's specialized in cardiac, and she will provide the course the lecture next week. We divided the lectures between us. You would have around 13 lecture, and the first 6 will be included in the midterm, and the rest will be in the final. You are required to do one project and one assignment, a very easy one. You will receive it by email, the requirements, and you can look at it and ask question anytime. So for the, if you have any questions, you can ask me. I will send to you the course, syllabus and what you're gonna learn, what you need to do, and everything will be sent by email. And if you have any questions, please ask me anytime. And sorry to have the last lecture in the second week to end up at 3:30 on Thursday to have a lecture. Okay, any questions or shall we start? Yes, the med will be included in the final. The lectures from what? I don't understand this. Okay. Let's start. So today we will talk about, the lecture will be an introduction to nutrition. As I told you before, it's becoming really an interesting science, and a lot of people are learning more and more about it. So the objective of this presentation or lecture today is to understand the impact of nutrition in our health, to understand the DRI, and to understand energy and be able to estimate energy requirements. And we will learn about the sites of secretion and absorption of nutrition. First, we should know what is nutrition. It is the science of food, nutrients, and other substance they contain and their action in our body. The ingestion, digestion, absorption, transportation, metabolism, and excretion. All of those are included in the nutrition science. It also includes the social, economic, cultural, and psychological implication of food and eating. So the impact of the economical status, the culture of the country, the diseases that you can find in certain places and not in others, or will be part of our lectures. The diet is actually the food and beverage a person eats or drinks. So when you are on diet, that does not mean that you are on a weight losing diet. You are just on a diet, a regular diet. We have different kinds of diet. Depends, as I told you, about the culture, and currently about, I don't know if we can call it the new fashion. So currently you have a lot of diets. You have intermittent fasting, and people are doing it by themselves. They don't need to go and follow with dietitians, like intermittent fasting, keto diet. What else? There's a lot of diets that now becoming popular, and people are following it up. We know that the nutrition play a significant role in our life. we should not live to eat. We eat to live and to have a healthy body and a healthy life forward. Whatever you choose now, it will affect your health better or worse in the future. It's sometimes the side effect of what you're eating can start as early as your 40s. Like if you're not drinking or not having enough calcium, you would be having a problem with your bones soon, right? Osteopenia. Studies also showed that bad eating habits can attribute to many chronic diseases, like what? Hypertension, diabetes, some links the high fat diet with colon cancer. So it can affect or have several effects of our health and chronic diseases. What make us choose certain kind of food? A lot of factors may help. First, personal preferences. So what do I like and what I cannot eat or I don't prefer? And this usually starts from early childhood. Usually people, if they are not introduced to certain kind of food, they may not like it or they don't prefer to eat it. And my belief that this was the case several years ago. Now, everyone is trying new food always, and people are eating a different kind of cultural food. And we're becoming like one award and or one country that people are not being as specific on their diet as they used to be before. Like, let's say 20 years ago, a lot of people will not prefer to eat Chinese food or Japanese food. When we go to restaurants, conferences, they will just avoid those kind of food. But now a lot of people eat it and try it, and you can find this from the number of restaurants that we have now. The habit. What did you grow up eating? Like usually, let's say, do you have breakfast or no? Do you skip breakfast? Your family have dinner or usually you skip dinner? What do you have at breakfast? Do you take cheese and sandwiches? Do you take cornflakes? Do you take egg and steaks? It depends on the habit and of the house and the culture also. The ethnic heritage or tradition, again, some people eat certain kind of food and others will avoid it. And this will lead certain populations to eat different kind of food. Like, let's say, usually people who live on shores, they eat more seafood than others also. Let's say Indians' food will be different, definitely, from Saudi food. So all those will make us do our food preferences and choices. Social interactions. We usually socialize around food, right? So if we are happy, we eat. If we're celebrating, we eat. If we're studying, gathering for study, we eat. So we eat in all social interactions. And that's a problem, of course. But now it's becoming more and more with different kinds of options. Thousands. I can't believe how many options do we have. Like last week, one of my friends asked on the WhatsApp group about a recommended sweet for her because she has some guests. The number of places and shops and kind of cakes that been sent in that group, I was shocked. Of course, I just knew 20% of what was sent, and everyone was talking on different shops, and that's definitely making our choices more and making us eat more because there's a variety of choices. Availability, convenience, and economy. Availability, like let's say in some countries, they will not be able to have seafood, as I told you, in certain countries because they live far away. And also if in some rural areas or people who live in village, they depend on what is available in their village, the kind of food there. Like caviar. Caviar is not really available in Saudi or in Riyadh, so limited people will have it as in their food. This is an example. Organic food. Now it's becoming more and more available, but before it's rarely to find organic food. Even if I prefer to have it, but it's not available. And if it's available, it's very expensive. Currently, in those last 2 years, it became much better. Convenience. If I'm going to get it, is it easy, or I have to travel, or I have, sometimes you want to do, certain kind of a dish, but you can't find the ingredients, you just change your mind. Economy. Is it affordable? Can I buy it, or it's very expensive? As I told you, again, the organic food. In 2000, I was in the state, and organic food or organic shops was just new, and it was very difficult for us to buy it because it's a little bit expensive. Not little bit, it was very expensive. But now, if you go to the state or Europe, organic food is really affordable and cheap, or it's more expensive than the other kind of food, but it's affordable. And I think Saudi will go to the same availability of organic food in the next few years. Positive and negative association. Like, let's say positive, we link popcorn to seeing movies, linking cakes to birthdays, linking ma'moul to Eid celebration. Negative association, like if you had certain kind of food and then you got sick, for sometimes maybe you will not be able to eat it. Also, if you know a friend or someone who told you, I cannot eat cheese, or he disliked meat or something like that, sometimes it's an experience that they had when they were young. They tasted something that was not right, or maybe they ate something rotten, and now it's stuck in their head that this tastes bad. Emotional comfort. A lot of people eat when they are under stress. You can see this in movies. When there's a breakup, they will have, the females, of course, they would have ice cream with all kind of chips and snacks in order to comfort themselves. Values. Like, do we eat, what should we have, on what should we avoid? Like, for us as Muslims, we don't eat pork. Indians, some of them, they don't have, they do not eat beef. Others, they believe that they should be vegetarian because they feel sorry for the animals, or because it's healthier. There's a lot of values that will lead us, like maybe you will not eat a steak that's cooked with wine because of our religion. So values will affect our choices also. Body weight and image. How do I want to look? Do I want to look thin, muscular? Usually females cares more about this than male, and they keep watching what they are eating in order to have the body weight and image they are looking forward to. Nutrition and health benefits. This is the one that's now becoming more and more between the population, and they're thinking about what is good for them and the health benefits. People are becoming more educated, and they will think about their choices before picking them up. Just a second, please. Now we will talk about the nutrition and health benefits. There's something called functional foods, and now it's a science, and really a lot of studies are going toward this topic. Functional food are the food that contain physiological active compounds that provide health benefits beyond their nutrients contribution. Nutrient contribution, we will learn about that later on, but what we're talking about, that they have more effect than nutrients, other kind of effects, that it's beyond what we're expecting. Sometimes we call them designers foods or nutraceutical. Examples: whole or fortified or modified food. Examples are cranberries, which protect against UTI, garlic, lower blood cholesterol, Tomato is protect against cancer and anti-aging. It's the most or the strongest anti-aging factor. Calcium, fortified orange juice. You're drinking orange juice while provided, or your body providing your body with the requirement of calcium. The phytochemicals is also a common phrase that you will hear, and now becoming also popular, and a lot of studies are going toward this, which is the non-nutrient compounds found in plant-derived food that have biological activity in our body. So the most important thing that they are from plant, the phytochemicals. We're talking about the non-nutrient compounds in that plant-derived food that will affect your body with good effect, okay? They impart taste, aromas, colors, and other characteristics. So those phytochemicals could be the one giving the taste, could be the one giving the aromas, the colors, or any other characteristics of that kind of fruits or vegetables. In the body, they profound physiological effect. They could be act as antioxidants, they could be mimicking hormones, or suppressing the development of a disease. So the examples of phytochemicals, if we're looking into the one that protect against cancer, we have phytoestrogen, where you can find them in flax seeds, soya beans, and whole grains. Lycopene, which you can find in tomato, guava, and watermelon. The lycopene is the one that gives the red color. And if you're gonna tell me guava and red color, actually guava in the state, it has a pink color. And this red and pink color is caused by the lycopene, which have an effect, or studies showed that it can protect against cancer. The flavonoids are well known to protect against heart disease, like whole grains, legumes, and tea. So when I'm saying please take more whole grains, eat more legumes, just not only the protein for the legumes as a plant-driven protein, but also because of their effect in our future heart health. It's really, the flavonoids are really providing a good protection against heart disease. The tea actually have high amount of flavonoids, and this is why I believe that tea is good for our health. Any questions? Okay. So now we will talk more about the nutrients. Remember, we talked about the other effect of food rather than the nutrients. Now we will go back to nutrients. Nutrients are the chemical substance obtained from food and used in the body to provide energy or structural material, or to regulate against or support growth, maintain and repair of food tissue. Again, so those nutrients are either used for energy or structural material, or regulating agents to support growth, or to maintain and repair of body tissue. Like what? What do we use for, what kind of nutrients that is used for repairing of body tissue? Any examples? The one that I don't like about online teaching, that there's no interaction. So yes, Sama, it's protein. Sana, it's protein, right? So protein is used, is a nutrient, and it is used for growth and for body tissue repair. The regulating agents is usually the minerals. The vitamins are needed for growth, and also they are some of the minerals, and also the proteins. So there is a lot of effect in our body. Energy, of course. What kind of nutrients provide energy? Anyone? Carbohydrates. Only carbohydrates? Fat, carbohydrates and fat, and Sugar is kind of carb, and protein. So those three actually are the kind of nutrients that provide energy. While the others, minerals and vitamins, do they provide energy? No, they do not provide energy. Okay, so the composition of food, the nutrients are 6 classes. The first one, carb, which provide energy, fat, provide energy, protein, provide energy, vitamins, minerals, and water, which do not provide energy. Let's look into this one. Do we have nutrients in our body? Yes, we do. We actually, the nutrients in food and in the body, our body have nutrients because we could be food for some animal, right? So nutrients similar to those found in the food are part of our body. Just a second. So nutrients similar to those found in food are part of our body. If we have a 68 kg of body weight, we would have 41 kg water, 9 to 20 kg of our body fat. Look into this. This is male and female body. This is male and female body, and this is the distribution of nutrients in our body. The yellow is actually the carbohydrates, the proteins, vitamins, minerals in our body. They are the minimum, right? Look. The fat is the dark green. The fat are more than the other all nutrients. And the light green is the water. Do you believe that? If we compare between female and male, you would find that females would have more fat than male. Why? Because the female should have more fat to have the rounded shape, while the male, they should have more protein because they should look more muscular. Yes, they have more fat. And males should have more protein because they should have more muscles. Currently, a lot of male will lose this muscular look because of the overweight and stuff like that. But if you compare a boy and a girl that just going into they're just going into adult age, you would find the male or the boy, like 14 years old, will have a muscle. If he's not overweight, ideal body weight, he would have a muscle shape in his arms, while girls will not have this. Their arms will look smooth. And this is the difference between a male and female. Just a second. Sorry for the interruption. Okay. The chemical composition of nutrients, we have two classes, the inorganic substance and the organic substance. The difference between them that the inorganic one do not contain carbon or pertaining to living things, which are water and minerals only. Organic substance, they contain carbon-carbon bonds or carbon-hydrogen bonds like carbohydrates, lipids, protein, and vitamins. All of them have a carbon-carbon bonds in them, or a carbon-hydrogen bonds. The essential nutrients are nutrients a person must obtain from food because our body cannot make them in amount sufficient to meet our needs and physiological needs. So essential nutrients a person must obtain from outside. The non-essential are the ones that our body can make. The energy yielding nutrients, again, they are carb, fat, and protein. The energy, we measure it in calories and kilocalories, right? How much calorie or kilocalorie our food provide? It depends on the amount of carb and protein and fat. The 1 gram of carb, they provide 4 kilocalorie. The 1 gram of fat, they provide 9 kilocalorie. The 1 gram of protein provide 4 kilocalorie. So actually, when we are saying this piece of cake have, let's say 800 calorie or 600 calorie, we're talking about kilocalorie, not calorie. But since we are used to say just calorie, people will understand what we are referring to. Because the 1 gram, if it gives you 4 kilocalorie, that means it's 4,000 calorie, right? Anyway, we are used to use calorie instead of kilocalorie, but in textbook and your practice, you have to write kilocalorie like that. Fat has the greatest energy density. So when we are eating fat, the small amount will provide to you almost double or more than double the carb and protein. And this is one of the reasons we need to watch our fat intake. But one thing that whenever you are having more fat, you will be sometimes feel fuller and you will eat less, especially if this is a diet habit that you are following for some times. But fat usually they provide more, and this is one of the reasons we need to watch our fat intake. Energy density. The energy density is to measure the energy food provides relative to the amount of food. So the meaning of that, if I am having 10 grams of that food, how many kilocalorie this food will provide? It will be more clear if we look into this one, okay? Those two pictures. And the first picture, oh, sorry. And the first picture, you will find a breakfast that have cornflakes with banana, bread, eggs, 1 hot dog, jam, fruits, and a cup of tea, and also milk. The weight of this food is 450 grams. It delivers 500 calories. So what is the energy density of this kind of food? We will take 500 kilocalorie divided on 450 grams. It will provide 1.1 kilocalorie per gram. If we look into the donuts, this is a 144 gram breakfast. It gives us 500 calorie. So if we do the same, it will show us that the energy density of the donuts is 3.5 kilocalorie per gram. So this one, which one of those will make you feel fuller and will stay or be, you'll not feel hungry after it? Of course, this one, the first choice. Though it will make you fuller, it will provide a lot of nutrients. While you're eating, you would have protein, fat, minerals, carbohydrates, and vitamins. While if you had the donuts, mostly you will have carb and fat, right? So what does this tell us? that we need to make the choice when we are thinking about food. We cannot maintain our body weight and our health if we are only taking high energy density food. This could be an occasional food, but it's not the diet habit. If I am daily having donuts for breakfast, having fast food for lunch and dinner, this will give me a continuously high density food with lower nutrient quality of food. This is definitely going to affect our health. So sometimes you could make a choice and have this, as I told you, occasionally. We should think about having a variety of food every day in order to provide all the nutrients. I know that our fast track life is sometimes making this difficult. And always you're trying to get the fastest, but as much as possible, make a plan for yourself to have all kinds of fruit from all kind of food groups, as you know it, because this will make or provide for you all the nutrients you need. Any questions? Okay. You don't need to calculate, no, that will be not be required. Okay, how do we get energy? When the body uses nutrients for energy, bonds between the nutrients atoms break, releasing energy either as heat or send electrical impulses, synthesize body compounds, move muscles, storage compounds. So usually the energy we have, we will use it for heat, electrical impulses to build our body and move our muscles. If we are taking more than what we need, we will start storing the energy, either in fat after we have enough storage of glycogen and glucose, protein in the muscles, then I will start storing the extra energy as fat. And here comes the weight gain. So whenever you see someone who's having a couple of kilos overweight, that means what they are receiving is more than what they need and what they are burning. Regardless, sometimes you tell me, but they don't eat a lot. That's fine, but their metabolism is low. Maybe they're not moving enough. And that whatever there's extra kilos, that means whatever you're taking is more than what you need. Okay. Energy not used will be stored as fat. We finished this. Okay. Dietary reference intake. The DRI is the way that we look into nutrients. How much do we need? It is the set of nutrients intake values for healthy people. You will find it in studies. You would find it sometimes on labels, food labeling. You will find it in textbook. So I need to understand the dietary reference intake. I need to know exactly how much healthy people need, because if someone have a deficiency, you would need more, right? Um, this amount, the DRI, maybe it's not appropriate for sick people. Like if a certain diseases, they cannot take this amount, or if they have a deficiency, they should take more. If they have, let's say, diabetes, they should have less. So the DRI is not always appropriate for sick patients. Usually we use those values for planning and assessing diets, right? If for me, for the DRI, to understanding, we need to establish the nutrient recommendation. In order to do that, they have four different classifications, or let's say definitions. The first one, the most popular, is estimated average requirement, which is the EAR. The second is the recommended dietary allowances, the adequate intake, and then the tolerable upper intake level. Those, all four of them, will help me develop the dietary reference intake. What are the difference between them? The estimated average requirement, which is the EAR, is the average daily amount of nutrients that will maintain a specific biochemical or physiological function in half of the population, the healthy people of a given age and gender group. So first, it's an average daily amount. It will maintain biochemical, physiological function for who? Half of the healthy population, but they should have certain age and certain gender group. So there will be differences between them. The requirements, here we will understand the meaning of requirements, is the lowest continuing intake of a nutrients that will maintain a specified criterion of adequacy. So if I am, the requirements is the amount I need to take in order to have enough amount maintained in my body. This is the definition of requirement. The recommended dietary allowances, this is the most used reference, or yes, the dietary reference, which is called RDA. You will find it everywhere. It's the average also daily amount of nutrients considered to meet the non-nutrients needs of particularly all healthy people. In the first one, half of the healthy people. Here it's all healthy people, and usually it's the goal for dietary intake by individuals. So for me, if I am going to prescribe for a person a diet for him, usually RDA is the best way of calculating it. So it's an average daily amount of nutrients for all healthy people. Deficient or deficiency is the amount of nutrients below which almost all healthy people can be expected over time to experience deficiency symptoms. So deficient, let's say deficient amount of iron, that means I'm not taking enough iron. If this continue for a long period of time, I could have iron deficiency anemia. If I'm not having iron for, let's say, 2 weeks, that will not affect me. I will not develop a deficiency symptoms. And especially iron, it needs several months and days in order for a person to develop iron deficiency anemia. So with time, if I continue not receiving enough, I will have the deficiency symptoms, like having osteoporosis. If I continue not receiving enough calcium and vitamin D for a very long time, I would develop this. Let's say magnesium deficiency. I should have sometimes not receiving any food containing magnesium in order for me to develop it. Any questions? Okay. The adequate intake, please, those definitions are important, okay? You need to understand them, and if you have any questions, please let me know. The adequate intake is the average daily amount of nutrients that a group of healthy people consumes. So in this one, those people are consuming, let's say, 2,000 gram of sodium, and they seems to be fine. What did not understand? For the differences between The estimated average requirements and the RDA is depending on the studies had been done. And they believe that half of the population will be healthy people, will take this amount and they are fine and surviving, while other could be taking more and less, and they will not be enough. And also it is related to the age and gender. The RDA is more a fixed range that is enough for everyone. Also, sometimes it's related to age, but they think most of the people need this amount. When we are going to see the tables, you will a little bit understand the differences. Since RDA is talking about most of the healthy people, it's mostly used more than the estimated energy. And what do we, why do we use this? Well, what's the difference between them? It depends on the nutrient itself. Some of the nutrients we measure it by RDA, others you measure it by estimated average requirements. So it depends on the nutrients and the studies that had been done on those nutrients. And if we are sure 100%, the RDA is the most, we cannot say accurate, but the one that have more studies and have more proof that it's good for most of the people. This is the difference between them. Okay. No, it depends on the nutrients. It not depends on the countries. It depends on the nutrient itself. When I'm going to show you the tables, look at it and then we will discuss it again. Okay. Usually we use the estimated average requirements for energy, right? More than nutrients. Okay. But the most one that we use is RDA, and I'm sure you've been hearing it more and more. Like most of the people or the labels written on food label, you will find RDA. The adequate intake is different. The adequate intake, we use it when there's insufficient scientific evidence to determine the RDA. So the RDA is mostly, we reach those numbers by a lot of studies. If I'm unable to do those studies or insufficient studies because of whatever reason, then I will use the adequate intake. As I told you, acid sodium. Sodium recommendation is an adequate intake because I'm not sure is this enough or not sure. I don't have enough studies. The average daily amount of nutrients that a group of healthy people consumes. Also, one thing, sometimes you would find several references for the same nutrients. You just pick one that you find that the most used and most or more accurate. Okay, so again, the adequate intake. It's the average daily amount. Again, it's average daily. All of them are average daily amount of a nutrients that a group of healthy people consume, and they seems to be fine, right? So I know that those, let's say 10 men, they are receiving this amount of nutrients, and after 10 years, 20 years, they seems to be fine. So it's adequate intake. This amount is really seems to be enough for them. Okay, adequate intake is different between RDA and the other one. Look into this. This one is the adequate intake of minerals. Most of minerals are adequate intake. Look into the sodium, right? You would have infants, children, males. Is there differences between them? Yes, but mostly it's not with age and gender, right? And we know that this amount is enough, but we don't have enough studies to make it an RDA. Okay, this is adequate intake. The chloride is adequate intake, potassium, calcium. Calcium is adequate intake, and this is why the recommendation now, this is an old table, the recommendation changed to 1,000 because more study has been done. Still, it's an adequate intake, and they are changing it to RDA because they have more and more studies about the amount enough, and they think it's 1,000 milligram per day. The phosphorus is RDA, magnesium RDA, iron RDA, zinc, iodine, selenium. All of those, most of them are RDA. Okay, look into the vitamins. The same. Most of them are RDA, some of them are adequate intake, like biotin. Biotin, this is the amount that is recommended, very small amount. I'm sure you heard about the recommendations for hair loss that it should be mega dose, which is around 5,000. They're saying that maybe this amount actually is not right and we need to revise it. And there's some studies about looking into this because they're saying some people, if they are receiving minimum amount, the symptoms of deficiency will show as hair loss, and this is why they give mega doses. Okay. Vitamin B is an RDA. So now when you look into this one, you would understand the differences between them. The last one is the tolerable upper intake level. The meaning of it, that the maximum amount that I can provide a person or a people, and it would be safe for their health. And if I give more, this will have an increased risk of adverse health effect. So I should not give more than this amount, or it will be toxic, or it will have an adverse health effect. An example of this is iron. Like someone developed an iron deficiency anemia, and we prescribe for him iron for some times. Usually we'll ask them to stop it. If they continue taking it while they are not deficient anymore, that means it will have, or they have double the dose, like you tell them to take 2 tablets per day, and then they decide, oh, I want to get more to finish or to get better faster. This may have an adverse health effect. Okay. Also, example, giving phosphorus, potassium, especially for IV fluids, we have to be very careful because there's an tolerable upper intake. We should not provide higher than that at all in order to avoid any negative effect on health. Any questions? Okay. Now we will move to establishing the energy recommendation. So I want to know, how should I calculate my energy requirement? And this would be your first assignment. The most popular way to calculate it is the estimated energy requirements. The average energy intake that maintain energy balance. If I want to calculate my energy requirement, I need to understand what make differences between us, right? Are all of us are the same? Do we need the same amount of energy? No. So if we're talking about the estimated energy requirements, it's the average energy intake that maintain energy balance and good health in a person of a given gender, age, weight, height, and level of physical activity. Okay. So in order to calculate the energy requirements, I need to know the gender, the age, the weight, the height, and level of physical activity. Those 5 factors are the highest, have the highest effect on our energy requirements. In order to calculate or to have our EER, I need to know all those 5 to calculate it. And it's actually an average energy intake. If I'm calculating this, because this is an equation, it's not necessarily to be 100% accurate, but it is as much as possible, it's calculated as much as possible to be accurate, depending on those 5 factors. Okay. This is regarding energy. The acceptable macronutrient distribution range. If I say you need 2,000 calories, I need to understand this 2,000, how much it should be distributed on nutrients, right? So the acceptable macronutrient distribution range, it's called AMDAR, A-M-D-R, AMDAR. This one is usually used to have the percent of different nutrients, the one energy yielding nutrients in your diet. So ranges of intakes for the energy nutrients that provide adequate energy and nutrients and reduce the risk of chronic diseases. The DRI recommendation for the distribution of energy yielding nutrients are 45 to 65 kilocalorie from carb, 20 to 35 kilocalorie from fat, 10 to 35% of calorie from protein. This big differences between them, it depends on the person, health, diseases, activity. So it depends, and it's a big range. Like look into the protein, it's either 10% of your diet and up to 35%. Currently, we are all moving toward less carb. Before we are looking forward to have less fat. Now we're looking forward to have less carb because it showed that we're eating too much carb that actually is causing some of the diseases. One of them is the heart. If we're taking a lot of fructose in high amount, are we having a lot of sugar also? If you're having a lot of carb, you could have a fatty liver, even if you're not really overweight. So carb currently showed to have effects that we did not think about before. Before, all our concern were fat, right? And people tend to reduce fat in order to have less fat. They move to have more carb and less protein, because most of the people say protein comes with fat, so I need to reduce protein in order to have less fat. Also, before they used to say, whenever you're getting older, you need less protein and you should reduce your protein. This is what my father believed. My father, he's old now, but all his life, he always read about nutrients and the effect of nutrients on health and how should he eat. So whenever he reached 60, he started watching his protein intake because he's afraid that he would develop a kidney disease. Actually, this is not related. Having high protein, there's no studies proving that having high protein will make you develop a kidney disease later on. Currently, actually, the studies showed that elderly need more protein than adults because they lose more protein. You start breaking your muscles and they keep losing and losing. This is why they need more protein than we expected. So the components of the energy expenditure, energy expended by the human body in the form of basal metabolic rate, thermic effect of food, activity thermogenesis. What's the meaning of that? I'm taking this energy, I need this amount of energy in order to do what? To meet my basal metabolic rate, which is, let's say, 1,200, and the thermal effect of food, which is a 10% of my need. I need it in order to burn, first ingest, digest, and then use this amount, the nutrients coming out of food. This is called the thermic effect of food. And the activity thermogenesis, the amount of activity I'm doing. If I am working out or not, do I walk, do I use the car most of the time? Those will give me, will add some calories to my requirements. So those three will make up a person daily total energy expenditure, okay? So the total, if now I will ask you, please calculate your total energy expenditure. That means you are going to use an equation that include all those three of your requirements: basal metabolic rate, thermic effect of food, and the activity thermogenesis. We will learn more about each one of them. Basal and resting energy expenditure. The basal and resting energy expenditure is the amount, generally, it's the amount of energy you need in order to maintain your body function without doing anything else. It has several definitions or different definitions depending on the circumstances. You need to understand them and learn them. And this is why if you have questions, we will keep going and explaining them. The first one is the basal energy expenditure. The basal, from the word basal, that means the minimum amount. So it's the minimum amount of energy expended that's it's compatible with life. If I took less than that, it might affect my life, okay? The basal energy expenditure. How I'm going to measure it? It's the energy used in 24 hours while physically and mentally resting in a thermoneutral environment. So I need it for 24 hours, physically and mentally resting. What's that supposed to mean? I should be sleeping, right? In a thermoneutral environment. The room should not be cold and it should not be hot. The basal metabolic rate here is the measurement of energy early in the morning. So whenever you wake up with no physical activity and no food, no drinks or nicotine for 10 to 12 hours. So you wake up, I will start measuring for 10 to 12 hours without physical activity, food, drinks, or nicotine. This is the basal metabolic rate, and this is the difference between them. This one, you're awake for 10 to 12 hours. Here, you're sleeping for 24 hours. Of course, they don't make you sleep for 24 hours. They just multiply it. Right. Okay. We did not miss any, right? Okay. Resting energy expenditure. The first one was basal, right? Now we're talking about resting energy. The resting energy expenditure is the energy expended in the activity necessarily to sustain normal body function and homeostasis. So you're resting, right? And this is the minimum amount or energy expended for activities necessarily to sustain normal body function. It's called REE. The resting metabolic rate is measurement of energy relaxed in a thermoneutral environment, and it's 10 to 20% higher than the BMR. It's higher than the basal metabolic rate. Any question? So to calculate the basal and resting energy, we have 4 ways to calculate this. The most well-known way of calculating the energy requirements is the resting energy expenditure, the REE. You will find it, as I told you, in most of textbook and studies. The REE, in order for me to calculate it, I need to understand the factors that are affecting it, what make us different, okay? The most important one is body size. Am I large, medium, small, or petite? Large people would have, what do you think, higher metabolic rate or lower? Definitely higher. So they would have higher metabolic rate more than smaller people. This is why big people eat more, because their metabolic rate is higher. You'll tell me, but they could be overweight also. Definitely, everyone could be overweight if they are taking more than what they need. But the body size will make the differences between us. This is rest. The question is the resting. Yes, the first one is the basal metabolic rate. It's the person should be sleeping and then he just wake up. That the other one is just relaxing, you know. And the basal metabolic rate, he should not be moving at all. No food, no drinks, no nicotine. The resting energy expenditure, no, it's just the amount you need to maintain your body function. And it's higher, definitely. Both of them, the resting metabolic rate and the REE, are higher than the basal. The basal is you should not do anything, you know, no food, no drinks, not moving at all. Okay, is it clear? Basal, just think about sleeping or just waking up but not moving at all. Resting is just you sitting but you're moving your hands, you're moving around. Is it clear? Okay. So the body size make the differences between us. This is why male need more, one of the reasons that male need more than female, more energy. So if we have a tall, thin person and a short, wide person, which one of them would need higher metabolic rate? What do you think? Tall and thin. Yes, actually tall and thin. You know why? Because our energy requirements also depend on the surface. So if you're tall and thin, you would have more surface than short and wide. Because the short and wide, he would have more fat, but the surface area is less. So tall, thin people are luckier and they would have a higher metabolic rate. Okay, is it clear? The second one, the second one is the body composition. The body composition, how much muscles you have and how much fat you have. If I'm calculating or using an equation, this will not be included in my calculations because this is, I'm now talking about not the calculation, I'm just explaining the amount of energy you need, it comes from where and what makes the differences between us. So maybe we would have two people having the same body weight, but one of them would, their same height, same age, same gender, but one of them would have a higher metabolic rate because they would have a different in their body composition. How come? The fat-free mass, which is, if I'm saying fat-free mass, it would be what? The fat-free mass would be the muscles. The muscles is metabolically active tissue, and it is used for a predictor for REE. Yes, muscles and bones. While the fat, but mostly muscles, while the fat, it just stay there. It's not active, it's only a storage area, and this one would need less energy. And this is why athletes would have up to 5% higher REE, sometimes even more than 5. But on average, they would have a higher 5%. The fat-free mass, how can I measure it? They measure it by underwater weighing, hydrodensometry. They can measure it by the dull X-ray, DEXA or the DEXA, but this is an expensive way of measuring. The underwater weighing is actually not available everywhere. The other one is the air displacement, the skin fold anthropometry. The skin fold, I think I did not see it for several years now. We just learned it at the university. And the last one is the bioelectrical impedance analysis, BIA. The BIA is the one that found in clinics and sometimes some of the gyms. And this depends on electrical impulses going into a closed circuits and measuring how much fat, muscles, bones, water you have in your body. And depending on this, you would have different metabolic rate. As I told you, if we look into two people having same height, same gender, same weight, and I put them in this machine, they might have differences between them. For the bioelectrical impedances, if you are going to do it, don't use the one that's only a hand handle. It has to be a closed circle. So your feet should be on metal, your hand should be on metal to have an accurate reading, okay? The third one is age. Age is part of the equation. The resting metabolic rate is different in our different life span. The resting metabolic rate is the highest during rapid growth, mostly during first and second year of life. And I think most of us, if you look into the how much they grow, you would need that how much energy they need more. So infant children would need higher energy requirements because they are building. They are using the energy to build. And then when you are an adult, you reach 18 years old, you're not going to grow anymore. So you don't need energy to grow. You just need energy to maintain. This is why a lot of people, young, men and females, they start gaining weight after 14, 15, because they continue eating the same amount of food that they used to eat, while now they are stable and not growing anymore. So they will store it. Yes, for the skin fold, yes, it's basic, because if you are using it, the fat is easier to be pinched. It's like it is a machine, a caliber that you use it for the fat. I did not use it, never used it in my life. I just learned about it in school. Okay. What I've been saying. Okay. The extra energy required for synthesizing and depositing tissue is about 5 kilocalories per gram gain. So if I am building my body, I need 5 kilocalories for each gram to gain. If I have someone who wants to gain weight, I will try to provide extra energy to help them gain weight. And for the growth, it's similar. As the child grows, less energy is needed for the growth. So whenever we grow older, our requirements will be less. Yes, the older we get, the less we should consume. Yes, this is right. You will tell me, but a child will eat less. We're talking about kilocalorie per gram. So maybe they will eat less as a child, but their requirement is higher for their body. But when you are reaching adolescence, you start eating adult portions and big portions, and you continue to eat this, especially male, because at this age, they eat a lot in order to build muscles and get taller. If they continue to eat the same amount, they will start gaining weight. And this is also a problem that you will find when reaching an important point in your life, which is reaching 30, because the metabolic rate will start going down. 30, 40, 50. And this is why in our population, mostly our population, and a lot of population, not only us, you will rarely find 50 years old male or female with ideal body weight, right? Because we continue eating the same amount with less movement and less exercise. Yes, the older we get, less we should consume. After early adulthood, the resting metabolic rate decline by 1 to 2% per kg fat-free mass per decade. What is that supposed to mean? So my resting metabolic rate will be less, as I told you, every 10 years by 2% of the fat-free mass, because I start to lose muscles more than building. the build stop unless you are doing exercises. You will continue to maintain your muscles. If you're building your muscles, it's different, but I'm talking about regular one to maintain. Even if you're exercising, some of the muscles will be lost with age. You're not building it anymore. But more proteins. Usama is saying that maybe we should eat more proteins when we grow up. Yes, why? Because you're just reducing your calories at the end, Usama. So if you're having less calorie and more protein, less carb, even though both of them provide the same amount of energy, but the protein could be used in building and it will be less carb, less energy that it's spared, right? Okay. So every decade, I would have 10% less in my energy resting metabolic rate. That means I need to watch my calories more and more. If I am exercising, I will try to maintain my fat-free mass and thus the resting metabolic rate. So if I'm exercising, this big differences in metabolic rate will be less, right? So do we recommend exercising? Yes, because I want to maintain my muscles. And believe me, in your age, it's so easy to make muscles. Whenever you grow older, it will become more and more difficult. So, and try to make exercising part of your lifestyle, because also when you grow older, you would have it difficult to say, I know you don't have time, you're so busy, at least twice a week, because building muscles now is much easier than later on. In addition, you will maintain your metabolic rate and your health. Okay. Sex, gender, mainly because why there's difference between them? Because gender, it depends on two things, which is body size and composition. Remember when we've been talking about females and male and fat distribution and protein? Females would have more fat and less muscles. And this is why male would need more energy. Can you give me a second, please? Just a second. Okay. The fifth factor is the hormonal status. Hypothyroidism, hyperthyroidism. If the person is having hypothyroidism, that means they need more or less energy. Or their metabolic rate will be higher or lower. Yes, lower, it will be lower. Hyperthyroidism, one of the signs and symptoms that will show is losing weight, right? For the hypothyroidism, person will start gaining weight. The resting metabolic rate for women is different with menstrual cycle. And this is why females, if you notice, during the first 2 days of period, they start craving more and more sugar, carbs, and food. During pregnancy, the hormonal changes will make the pregnant lady feel more hungry and have a larger amount of food. Other factors is the caffeine intake. The caffeine affects our metabolic rate, the resting metabolic rate, and it depends, and there's some differences between male and female. Male, it could be around 350 milligram, increases 7 to 11%. For the women, it's up to 15%. So it increase your resting metabolic rate from 7 to 15%. And thank God it affects women more than men, right? So women, females, go and drink coffee to maintain your body weight. What else do you think it has an effect on our resting metabolic rate? Any suggestions? Lifestyle, we're talking now about the factors. Nicotine, it affects females more than male. It can increase it up to 6%. And this is not an invitation for smoking. This is to tell you that actually when people quit smoking, they have a high risk of gaining weight, and we should help them to maintain their intake, to reduce their intake in order not to gain weight. Alcohol, actually, it affects females up to 9% increase. Yes, alcohol. Fever, I don't know why this is showing like that. It increased the resting metabolic rate by 13% for each degree. And this is one of the reasons that people or patients with fever, they may lose weight because their metabolic rate or resting metabolic rate is higher. Environmental temperature. It depends on the tropical climates, hot or cold. Those all affect the metabolic rate. If you're living in a tropical climate, this will increase the resting metabolic rate, could be up to 20%. Cold environment and increase in temperature higher than 32% increase the resting metabolic rate. In cold environment, in order to keep yourself warm, you would need more energy, and you would have crave more food. For the tropical climates, and this increase in energy, it's one of the reasons that athletes needs to do climatization when they move or play in different area, because their metabolic rate, one of the reasons is their metabolic rate difference, and this need to be also adjusted. If exercising in temperature higher than 32 will increase the resting metabolic rate. So when you are outside, this is because of our body trying to maintain their temperature, and this is why they will need more energy. Thermic effect of food, increase in energy expenditure associated with the consumption of food. This is the second factor, remember, we've been talking about. Increase in energy expenditure associated with consumption of food. In order for me to utilize the food, it needs to be digested, as I told you, consumed, ingested, digested, and then absorbed. This needs 10% increase in energy, in total energy expenditure. Obligatory thermogenesis is the energy required to digest, absorb, and metabolize nutrients. It's clear, right? I need to have 10% more increase in my energy in order to do this process. Where can I see these differences? If I am feeding a patient's total parental nutrition, I'm giving them the food or the nutrients through their veins, directly digested and ready for absorb. this one will need less energy requirements. Okay, so most of all of us need this 10% increase unless we are receiving total parental nutrition. The last one is the activity thermogenesis, is the energy expended during sports or fitness exercise. The contribution of physical activity is the most variable. It can go from 100 to 3,000 kilocalorie per day. If I am active or I'm not active, even simple activity, you know, like some people don't do any chores. This is most of us. Some people, even if they want to get something, they really don't feel like it. Some people always park in front of the door. They don't just want to walk minimum steps. Some people, when they are talking to you, they keep moving their hands, their legs, you know. When they are working on the computer, they keep moving. Those are small things, physical activity. Of course, this is tiny changes, but the major changes, are you exercising or you're not? Are you walking every day? Are you going to the gym? How long? What kind of exercises you're doing? This makes the differences between us. And this is one of the reasons that some of the athletes, or let's say my father, your father, when you used to go to or exercise and have some kind of sport and then they stop, they will gain a lot of weight. Non-exercise activity thermogenesis, this is the NEAT, is the energy expended during activity of daily living. This is what I told you, the non-exercise. So those both, the one coming from exercise and NEAT, both of them contribute to my total energy expenditure. The factors that affect the activity thermogenesis is body size, if you're big or small, level of fitness. Body size, again, remember the number, the amount of muscles and fat. Level of fitness, if I am fit, I would have less fat, more muscles. That means I need more metabolic rate. The activity thermogenesis will go lower with age. Why? Because again, I would have less fat-free mass and I will have more fat. So activity thermogenesis, which is part of the metabolic rate, will be less with age. The meaning that if I am exercising while I'm 40, will be different energy expended while I'm doing the same exercise when I was 20, because of the amount of free fat mass and the fat mass. Is it clear? Okay. How do I calculate the estimated energy expenditure? In the equation, I need to add the physical activity factor for all groups except infants in order for us to have a more accurate calculation. As I told you, it has the major effect or make the big differences between us. Physical activity level, which is called PAL, is the ratio of the total energy expenditure to the basal energy expenditure. Because the total activity thermogenesis is part of the total energy expenditure, while the basal have no activity. Remember, the ratio between them will give me the PAL. Okay, we have 4 lifestyle category. The first one is sedentary. The sedentary, the PAL will be 1 to 1.4, almost sedentary. Only those physical activity requires for typical daily living. Just give me a second, please. Okay, so the four level of physical activity are sedentary, low active, active, and very active. The PAL will be different according to your physical activity. The meaning of sedentary, that only those physical activities required for typical daily living, meaning that doing the basic activity. This include house chores that most of us don't do. So moving around, cleaning, making your bed, going to work, studying, going from your car to the building. Those are the basic movements. If you're doing only those, this is sedentary lifestyle. The low active is daily living plus 30 to 60 minute moderate activity. 30 to 60 minute daily. That means, to calculate, it's around 1 hour 3 times a week. Going to the gym or making a regular walking or running. Active, that means I'm going to do 60, more than 60 daily. Very active, I'm going to do more than 60 moderate activity, more than 60 vigorous activity, and more 1 to 2 hours moderate. This is usually for athletes, right? The one who's trained under training or doing maybe building bodies. Sometimes, you know, your friend will decide to have muscles and he will go to the gym 2 hours per day, 3 hours, 2 hours every day, or 3 hours. This would be a very active person. Okay, so if you look into this, this is the PAL, and this is the factor that I'm going to use in my equation. The factor depends on gender and age, and I'm going to use those in my calculations, okay? I don't know what happened. I'm unable to change. Okay. This is physical activity. This is only to show you how did they calculate those numbers. Like, look into this. Activity of daily living. This is what I'm telling you. Gardening, household task, lifting items, loading, mopping. We don't do those mostly. Okay, vacuuming, walking the dog, walking from the house to the car or bus, you know. So if you think about yourself and you're not doing any of those, you could be not sedentary, even bedridden, right? No movement at all. Okay. In this table, we will see the estimated energy requirements equations in order for us to calculate. If you look into the infants, remember we said that the physical activity is not included. And also for infants, the differences of gender is not there yet, right? Starting from, 3 years old, they will start having the 5 important factors, which is age, physical activity, weight, and height, 4, in their calculations, right? Look the differences between them. We should pick the right one. If you look into this, men and women, you will pick it for everyone or adults, depending on the equation, depending on the gender with no age, since you reach 18. The pregnancy, they would have the same, but we will add some energy in order to meet the requirements of the baby growing inside you and the increased volume of blood, having some fat stored. We will talk about this later. In the first trimester, the pregnant lady do not need any extra energy. Then she would need 340, then she would need 452. For lactating mother, right, she will add more in the first few months, and she will start burning some of the energy she stored inside her. And then 7 to 12, she needs around 400 calories more. As I told you, your assignment is to calculate your energy expenditure, estimated energy requirements. You will use the estimated energy requirements equation for men and women. You will put your age. It will be in what? In Santi. Sorry, the age will be in years. The weight will be in kilograms, and the height, you should put it in meters. Okay? No, you don't need to memorize the equation. You will use it from the presentation. Okay? So be careful on when you're completing your homework. Please put your age, weight, and height with the right unit in order for me to calculate your correct your equation. Any questions before moving to sites of secretion and absorption? Okay. Here we can look into the gastrointestinal tract, and you can see it start from the mouth and up to the anus. Each part of it, it has its own function in digesting and absorbing food. Is there differences in absorbing the site of absorption? Yes. Why do I need to know it? Because if there's any removal of any part, I should know or expect that this person may have a deficiency, right? If he's unable to absorb, he may develop deficiency. So in the stomach, we have the gastric juices. Usually the thing absorbed from there is the alcohol. So it's absorbed as quickly as the person drink it, it's absorbed. And the duodenum, usually the chloride will be absorbed, the iron, the calcium, the magnesium. And this is why if the person is having or taking antacid, the magnesium and calcium absorption will be affected. And as I'm sure all of you or most of you learned about the link between taking Nexium and osteoporosis, right? Because chronic use of it will reduce the absorption of calcium. Also, the zinc will start to be absorbed there. The jejunum, you would have the glucose, galactose, fructose, amino acid, vitamin C, riboflavin, folic acid. Most of those, which are water-soluble vitamins, will be absorbed in the jejunum. And also the adic. What are the adic? Which is the fat-soluble vitamins. The fat will be absorbed here also. The cholesterol, the bile side, and vitamin B12. The sodium, the colon, mostly the sodium and potassium, vitamin K formed by the bacterial action, and the water will be absorbed from the colon. So if I am having a patient with short bowel, I need to understand which part had been removed in order for me to know or expect what kind of deficiencies they have. And also one of the things that if a person had performed bariatric surgery, the type of surgery and the resection that took place will give me some hint of what kind of vitamins and minerals I should give. Mostly, or my recommendation and international recommendation, that they should receive extra vitamins and minerals because of the less absorption they have. So when you provide more, the absorption would be better, right? Because it's a percent of absorption. And this is why they need to take supplements from day one, in my opinion. Even protein, they need to take more protein because also it affects their absorption. Also, some of the patients who, before they did bypass, because they cut part and make the stomach goes directly to the jejunum, they may develop dumping syndrome, where then when they eat, there will be a reduction in their, because they cannot absorb glucose and galactose well, they will have hypotension, hypoglycemia. Okay, so also it's important. So understanding the site will help you to expect. If there's a part of the ileum removed, they might have fat in their stool, right? Because they're not absorbing the fat. And whenever they would have fat, they will develop diarrhea. I mean, fatty food, they will develop diarrhea. Okay, any questions? Dumping syndrome. Yes. Okay, any questions? I'm sorry for starting late, but at least we finished 5. I was hoping to finish earlier. Anyway, I will send you the assignment in order for you to start doing it. And if you have any questions, you can send us. And I wish you a nice weekend. And if you have no questions, we will adjourn here. Thank you. Thank you all for attending. Have a nice weekend.